Good morning, United Kingdom. Good morning. We have our favorite VIP, Mr. Ninder Singh Johal, this morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing, sir? Lakhi Singh, I think, is flipping in and out of backstage. So when he gets back on, we will talk to him. Otherwise, I'll block him out for 15 minutes. Maybe a good way of getting out my anger this morning. Right. So the topic for today being, we're talking about, we revolve a lot around business and property, but this morning's topic is regarding buying repossessed properties as auction. So it's a unique little niche there. So for a lot of the audience, it's probably very daunting because, buying assets or things at auctions, unless you're not familiar with the protocols of auction and the mannerisms of auctions, it can be somewhat daunting or confusing. So we're going to discuss, can we buy or can you buy repossessed properties at auction, and what are the various techniques. We'll discuss what a repossessed property is and why it would be in auction, and what is an auction in its real sense, and what the landscape for auction is now. Is it changing? Is it becoming, like I just discussed before we started, is it all becoming a bit more online, etc.? Lakhi Singh is on, right? Okay, we should allow him in. Otherwise, I was going to just let him out for 15 minutes. Morning, Lakhi Singh, United Kingdom, the property fixer, the ixer, the mixer, the mover, the acre, the shaker. How are you doing, sir?
I'm fantastic. How are you guys doing?
Making moves in the square of Berkeley, were you?
That's right. I've been working backstage, as always, 10 to 8.
Were you moonwalking in Berkeley, were you?
That's right.
Excellent, sir. We have Ninder Singh here. The roles have been reversed. It's as if Ninder and I have taken over the show, and Lakhi Singh is our guest. Let's hope for the future. Mr. Singh, or Lakhi Singh, topic for today is how to buy repossession properties from auction. So two components: repossessed properties. What are they about? Where do they come from? Are they like a love child? Where do these things come from? And what is an auction? What are the principles or the main features of an auction? The landscape of auction, has it changed? Where will people buy properties from if they are going to buy from auction? And if the auction sites or the auction houses close down because there isn't enough properties going out there, what's going to happen? That is the underlying topic for today, but we're going to deviate as we normally do, because we've got Ninder Singh Johal, who is more on the business side and gives us another angle, looks at things top downwards. It gives us a feeling as if Mr. Boris Singh is here giving us advice about how to look at business and finance and the economy as well in some respects. So before I start, what's the weather like in sunny, is it Birmingham? Are you in the Midlands, are you, sir, Ninder?
It's not far from Aston. We've speaking about that. So it's
yes. Whereabouts?
It's drizzling. Bearwood Edge.
Drizzling. Excellent. That's good news. Good news for people who suffer from hay fever. Lucky's probably loving it. Is it drizzling in London, Lucky?
Drizzling here as well. So drizzling. It's perfect for me.
Perfect for you. Yeah. So one man's drizzle is another man's cure, as I would say. So, Ninder Singh, sir, tell us, before we go into the topic of, and the saying of the weekend is quite interesting, if I can remember it. What is it? All of us. So everyone thinks of changing the world. Nobody thinks of changing themselves. Very deep, very introvert. So Ninder sir, what do you have to say? Say you what on that topic? Everyone thinks about changing the world. What about changing yourself? What have you had those experiences where you've had to change yourself first before you've changed the environment around you and then the general world?
Yeah, if you think about the fact that I've worked in entertainment, record label business, I've worked running my own publishing company. I've also run an events production company. So whilst the skills are transferable, I think you can only move sector to sector if you're happy and willing to change. And if you're willing to change your mindset, if you're willing to learn from others, if you're willing to accept what you're good at and what you're not good at, and whatever you're not good at, you refer to other people who are good at it. And I think if you have an open mind, a mind that's susceptible to change, that accepts change is the norm now, by the way. It's not, if you don't change, you are going to get left behind. I know you're going to be speaking about auctions, but, are people now open to online auctions? Are people now seeing that as the norm? Are you open to that? And if you're an auction house, have you adapted to the new product? So I'm afraid change is now the norm. It's something you should be expecting on a daily basis. Listen, 10 years ago, if you'd said to somebody in Blockbuster, by the way, you're working behind this till, renting out films, I think in 10 years you'll be behind a desk managing someone in social media, they would have said, well, hold on, what social media? What management? What's this online stuff? I'm only used to it. So, and change is now, I think the cycles of change are getting shorter and shorter, if that makes sense. So in other words, technology means things are changing much more rapidly than they've ever been. So I think in conclusion, if you're not open to change, you're going to be history.
Excellent. As I said, we always have a feeling like we're speaking to Boris Singh, not Inder Singh. So going to you, Lakhi Singh. Now, the nature of the beast is, Ninder paints quite a rosy picture of change in terms of, you mentioned a few critical things there, looking for people who've got the knowledge, to seek the knowledge to actually enact the change. But isn't surely the nature, you're sitting in the square mile, the beast, the center of the economic world, Lakhi, sitting there, are people that open to be giving you that knowledge for you to change? Does there have to be some quid pro quo? Is it that easy to get the knowledge to change? And is it change or is it diversification? What is it? And
before you jump in, can I just say, Mr. Vijay, that was a nice bit of Latin there. It was Latin, wasn't it?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Yes, thank you so much. I just picked up this. I read that this morning. I thought I'll just try it, see if it works. Okay, sir. Coming over to Lakhi Singh, sir. Yes. Tell me, is the nature of the beast that which is going to allow you to seek knowledge from other sharks? Because you're like a seal with the shark fin, apparently. That's the description people give you, that you're the nice man of the square. Is that correct, sir?
I try my best to please.
Well, that's probably more Soho. I'm talking about Berkeley Square, sir.
Okay, so I think Mayfair is a different beast altogether. People don't really have time for the niceties most of the time. It's a sort of like a New York type culture where it's if you're in the midst of it, it's basically people are not really there to help you, unfortunately, 99% of the time, unless it's you meet a character like Mahatma Gandhi or Nelson Mandela in Mayfair. It's a bit different. But on the whole, it's very, it's very sharp practices happen in Mayfair. If you're not on the ball, then you're just going to get eaten up and chewed out and spat out. So unfortunately, you have to be on your game to be able to work in Mayfair. And if you're seen to be somebody who's gullible or not keeping up with the change, you're just going to get ignored. It's not going to be, people are going to sniff out really what your profile is just literally by talking to you for a couple of minutes. And if you're not really on the ball, they're just going to say, well, this guy's got no clue about what he's doing. So, and if you don't come to the realization yourself, then not many people are going to be telling you either, because they don't have the time and they're not going to trouble themselves with their time to do that. Unfortunately, that's the way Mayfair works. So,
yeah, but what Linda says is, okay, so you're in the belly of the beast, as it would say. You're there in the center of the capitalistic world where things move and shake. The question Linda has, he's saying you've got to be able to accept change, and this comes from the topic or the saying of the weekend that people talk about changing the world, but are you changing yourself? What about your self-change? Now, he is making a valid point that I think the spans in between changing of business modes or changing styles of business is going to be quite short. There's going to be so many things happening now because of technology that one day you will be, as you are now. Tomorrow, I'll see you with a chip stuck in your forehead or something. That's how quickly things are going to change. And he gave an ideal example of Blockbuster. Now, if we go back to Blockbuster and go back before Blockbuster, or before Blockbuster became a corporate, remember there were VHS videos. And would have anybody thought that VHS videos or the video shop, the small outlet that was on the high street, that was going to go out of business because something like Blockbuster was going to come along that was able to stack thousands and thousands of CDs in one place, and video games, and online gaming systems. So, but the timelines between those changes were quite, if you look at it in today's timelines, were quite long. So video shops were around for a good 5 to 10 years before CDs became, the new technology, and before then videos or the hiring of videos went out again because people went back into the cinema halls. So in some respects, there's been a cycle of change, but I'm asking you that question that Ninda raises, and that is, do you find knowledge being transferred in the belly of the beast? Are you able to get people to mentor you, or for you to mentor, and for the nature of business, the capitalistic world, which is about greed, which is about revenue, does it allow you to change, or are you going to have to do a lot of internal changing yourself? Yes, Lakhi.
I think the majority is internal changes because, like I said, it's very much about me in the Mayfair. So people aren't really going to be going out of the way to share their knowledge lest they're going to get something out of it. So you've got to be on your own ball. You've got to do your own R&D. You've got to do your own research. You've got to have your own innovations. And the only way organizations will work with you if they can see some sort of major benefit and there's a mutual benefit.
Okay, so what have you done on your business that's about innovation? Have you innovated? Have you changed the way you're doing your business, Lakhi?
The way our business works is different from any other business that I've ever worked for, because 90% of the work I tend to do is around innovation. So everything we do is about solving problems. So currently we're working on a prop tech project, which is to completely ignore what's happening in the market for property sales with Rightmove and Zoopla, and look at really how is the market going to be like for the next 3 years, and how do we solve the problem of the new marketplace. for clients
Okay.
who want to sell quickly or buyers that want to buy
Okay,
deals.
I'm gonna hold it there. Prop tech sounds sexy in some respects. Move over to Ninder Singh. Tell me what it is that's happening in the music or the entertainment industry, or your principle was event production. So now you moved over to publishing. What's happened in that? I know we have e-magazines. You've got your magazine. Is it also in electronic form? But how do you sell it? What's the unique feature of e-magazines that people will want to buy e-magazines and not want to buy a physical magazine that they can throw around the office or swap flies with? So,
I think, again, just referring to change, I think part of the thing you have to do if you're, it doesn't matter which sector you're in, you have to understand how your customer's journey is changing. So how does your customer
like that. Customer journey, excellent.
journey? And we've spoken about this before, but in the music industry, we failed to track the relationship between technology and the customer journey changing because of technology. So we were content to selling CDs and music cassettes and vinyls, and we never saw the shift of the changing consumer behavior because of technology. We just didn't see it. And so we were like heads in the sand when everybody started to download. So if you now take the wider entertainment sector and you think of cinemas and you think of COVID and you think, well, if people still want to consume, that's the customer, still wants to consume entertainment, then how are they going to do it? And so if you take Bollywood now, the whole Bollywood industry is decimated because people can't go into cinemas. And so where are they now tuning to? Well, they're now going to Disney. So Disney are now showing these Bollywood movies. And so the worry for the cinema chains, and we've heard about Cineworld shutting down only a couple of weeks ago because James Bond's film has been now moved to next year. So the problem now for cinema operators in the world of entertainment is, will the customers ever come back? And what do we have to do? How do we have to change to reflect the change in consumer behavior? So for us, as an event production company, we knew that people will now no longer be coming to events. So how do we continue to keep our brand alive? How do we continue to keep our relationships with our stakeholders, the sponsors, and how do we keep our dialogue with our audience, our customers who've been coming to these events? And we worked out quite quickly that had to be through a digital format. And at our events, not only can you mix with people, but you learn about what's going on in the world. So we thought a digital magazine, but a physical one is also available. A digital magazine was our best route, in other words, using the online scenario to continue to have a dialogue with our audience, our customer. And that way, we're able to stay in touch with them and understand and reflect any change in that consumer's journey.
But with all due respect, Ninder, people who are up to listen, and remember, music is across gender, cross age. It's just a taste thing. So if you're into classical music, whether it's classical Hindi music or classical contemporary or classical art, in terms of the classics within classic musics in the Europeans, it goes across all bounds.
Yep.
So when you say e-magazine, I'm going to think, who is it who's going to want to read about music? Is it only the people who produce music, the events management companies, the people at a hierarchy who are delivering music, who are going to want to be aware of the changes? The consumer just wants to listen to music, and if they're listening to music on an iPod or on their telephone, because all the telephones have all the softwares on them now, or downloading it, why are they going to be interested about a magazine? What have you got in your magazine? What's there in that magazine that's going to keep your customer interested? Or is that magazine a strategic magazine? That's the question.
Okay, so the magazine is aimed largely at the business community. So it's not business community. So example, next week I'm interviewing for the magazine the chairman of Tesco PLC.
Excellent.
So now, how often can you get hold of the chairman of the biggest supermarket chain in the UK? Now, a lot of people will want to know, what has he got to say, particularly about, say, Asda, the change in ownership of Asda. What does he see the relationship between online and grocery? In other words, going into and what role does he see of national big brands in the recovery of the UK? So people want to hear those kind of stories. And in the current issue, we had an interview with Lord Billamaria, Cobra Beer. And so we asked him how he thought government was dealing with COVID, how he thought would deal with Brexit. So these are the kind of things that people in the business community want answers to. They want to hear other people's views. By hearing other people's views, they're able to then identify problems in their business, which they can try and take control. So it's back to change, and it's back to being ahead of the game. And to be ahead of the game, to be an influencer, you need to know something that the person sitting next to you doesn't. That's what gives you the edge.
Excellent.
And so if you pick up Lakhi Singh's viewpoint about that in Mayfair, possibly people aren't leaning forward to help you out. Well, I think in the business world, that's rare anyway. And as you try to perform at the top level, really, you've got to make sure you're motivated enough to learn, to be on a journey of lifelong learning, and to learn from as many people who are better than you, by the way, because they stretch you up. Nobody wants to play tennis against someone who's worse than you, because you won't get any better. You always try and play somebody better than you. So when I'm sitting here talking to you two, I'm hoping by the end of the hour, I'll have learned stuff from you two that I didn't know before this whole thing started. Otherwise, what's the point? So
exactly.
What's the point?
Okay, sir. Now, taking from Linda's point, Lakhi Singh, that means you're going to have to do more than moonwalking in Berkeley Square. So what other moves do you think you're going to be making to keep people interested?
Sorry, didn't go.
I said, Linda Singh says it's about ever-changing environment, being ahead of the game. I mean, his e-magazine has now at least some clarity behind it. It's not designed for music listeners. It's not for the audience. It's actually for the people who create entertainment, for those who are in the business community, to work out what business leaders are saying about the environment in order to pluck those cherries of information that may change the way they're doing business. So the issue is, it is not sufficient, Lakhi Singh, for you to be doing a moonwalk. You need to give us some more moves. What else are you going to be doing in Berkeley Square? Is it going to be a full-on Bhangra with some breakdance and robot moves? What are you going to be doing in Berkeley Square that's more than a moonwalk?
Right. Just in case people didn't understand the analogy, basically, what is it that we're doing that's cutting edge, that creates an interest or understands the consumer behavior to be able to provide solutions? Because the question you're asking, the moonwalk, I'm not sure whether anybody may understand it in the way that me and you understand it, I suppose. Okay, so basically, we've discussed this in the past, but the next 3 years, we've got a rollout plan to help people who've basically got problems in the market which are now becoming more prevalent. So number one problem in the market is access to finance. Yes. It's not easy to get bridging money, buy-to-let money, or setting up a credit facility, or to get business loans.
Out of the market, haven't they, Lakhi? All the banks are sitting on the edge, waiting to see what's going to happen next. Is that right, Lakhi?
That's right. So So from that perspective, we're working with all the new lenders that are now changing, a bit like what Ninda's saying, and adapting their products to target consumers or businesses that are more likely to reduce their risk and access to the market to provide lending. So I'm sort of acutely aware of all that's happening in that market, and that I'm tying up any new innovators in the market as part of our panel for lending.
Tying them up? You mean like you're physically sort of tying them up?
Well, they haven't got a choice. If I tie them up, then they're going to say yes to come on my panel. So it always works.
Okay, great. Yes.
So one angle is finance. Second angle is the repossession market. We've got access to 20 solicitors anywhere in the UK, so we can stop repossession in 24 hours. Third angle is that we have access to ability to write off negative equity debt and help mortgage prisoners.
Yeah.
So we have that solution in-house, and we've already done all the battle practice. We've successfully helped over 500 clients in the last year and a half to write off negative equity debt down to zero with the clean credit report. Now,
Excellent.
all these things are brand new, they're unknown, they're completely niche, and nobody else does them as comprehensively as we do. So I'm not trying to market them on this show, but these are the things that we're doing. And then the biggest one is the tech solution that we've got, which is offering a 0% commission on sales across the UK. So this is a way for a seller that's actually struggling to sell his property on Rightmove to come to an organization that's offering them 0% commission. And and I think that's going to be the way forward into the market to help hundreds of thousands of people. So my objective is to actually be basically the leading force to help anybody who's got property to sell, but be the place to go.
So that is.
So they're quite serious, cutting edge.
These are your metaphoric moves, then, are they? They are your breakdance and your robot in Berkeley Square. Ninda sir, tell me, in your magazine, in the sections that you have in your magazine, what industry sectors do you appeal to? Or is it anyone who is a business leader? Or are you actually in certain business sectors?
No, it is right across the entire patch. So, and I'll just pick something up that Lakhi said for a second. But so we're covering leadership, we're covering entrepreneurship. We're looking at the role of technology. We're looking at how globalization is now going to change because of COVID. We've had articles around India and how India will now displace some of the supply chain from China, because people do not want to now rely on one territory for their supplies. In case this ever happens again, they want to have multiple supplies. We have articles from lawyers, but also from accountants. And it was interesting that we're just looking at the general credit market. And we know with interest rates being virtually zero, that the chance of banks making money on lending is quite small, because the margin is quite small, and as a result, they're being a lot more careful about who they lend money to. I know they're not opening, or they are, but it's taken about 12 weeks to open a new business account, a bank account. There's been a lot of controversy around fraud around furlough and bounce back loans. So that's now making people more reluctant to lend. And I know if you're going for the CBIL, and that's a coronavirus interruption loan, I think that's difficult. I think if you're going into the new year and looking to borrow money for property, I think that's difficult because of the uncertainty around what happens past Christmas. What does 2021 look like? We're now definitely going towards a double a double dip recession where we thought there's a bit of recovery, but
isn't that a double dip recession, technically known as a depression, Ninder Singh?
well, it depends how long it goes on for.
So it's the length.
Yes.
Size matters in depressions or recession.
Absolutely. So again, if there's a double dip, then when are we looking for the recovery to happen? I know I know the IMF have said that 2021 won't be as bad as they thought it would be. But what we have to remember is certain countries have not suffered as much as others. So China's doing very well. China's rebounded really well. I think the UK's fared badly compared to other countries because we're more of a service-led rather than a manufacturing-led. And those like Germany, which are more manufacturing-led, they've done better because that involves more machines than people. But in services industries, which involve people meeting people, like the event production market, I think as a result, the UK economy suffered more. But
how do you, can I ask you? I mean, I'm trying to, you're right. When you listen and when you talk to people of knowledge, and knowledge is obviously quite a broad spectrum, unless you're sitting with somebody who's got a specific knowledge on a topic and you're sitting with them to enhance the knowledge on that specific topic. But I'm trying to imagine where entertainment or events productions are going to go when you don't have, or is it possible you could do event production and give everybody like a spacesuit to sit in and listen to their speakers inside their helmet? Was that what the future holds?
No. I think it's what I call a pause button. It's just a pause button.
Yeah.
Interesting. If I take you back to my analogy of what happened with music in terms of CDs, I think any business that doesn't involve people, I think is susceptible to disruption. So in other words, someone can come in and disrupt it because it doesn't require people. So music, classic example. Why do you have to go to a shop to buy music if you can download it? So that's not people already. So I think the thing with events, and I've given this example about Premiership football. Despite football being available on TV, people still want to go and watch one. They want to be in the crowd. So I think those industries where people are important, in other words, the interaction of a person to person, I think they've suffered the most. But I think equally, their model isn't broken because people will always buy from people. People enjoy the company of other people. I think their models will always continue. But I think.
So are you looking at events being? Are you going to take your event production outdoors? Is that the solution, to take it outside, like Glastonbury, and have it on the open sort of like event forum, somewhere like Hyde Park or something, rather than doing them in events, halls? Is that the future then?
No. I still think 2021's 50-50. I think 2022 events will be back up for two reasons. I say that. Firstly, I think they'll have made some kind of traction with a vaccine, because the words have changed now. The words aren't, are we going to have a vaccine? The words are, when is it coming out? So I think 2021 is still ropey, but I think 2022 we will see some kind of semblance. And economists are saying that the economy will return to pre-COVID 24-25.
24-25. Lakhi Singh, what do you have to say about that? What's your prediction? Where is the economy going, and when will it come back to 19?
I think in terms of my feeling about the economy is that by about June next year, when the stamp duty is going to come to an end, the reduction in stamp duty below $500,000, my feeling at the moment is that property prices is one of my key indicators. I think they're going to be crashing by that time, whether it's because of a depression, a double dip, triple dip depression, or whether it's interest rates going up, or whether it's just because of a massive slump because of the overspill of COVID-19. So all those three factors combined, the weightage on each one in terms of which one's going to be the one that breaks the economy, is going to be the one that I can't really guess, but my bad guess is going to be interest rates going up, and the other things are going to bring the property prices down. So, I mean, we should look at that situation positively for anybody who's got a lot of access to funds to be able to purchase assets, because it's an ideal opportunity for anybody who's got access to funds to be going out and structuring a business model that's innovative and creative, and it allows them to purchase assets on yield, on fixed rates, on a business model that allows them to create income.
In one person's slump, or one category of business people losing, there will be one category of people gaining. So those who will lose will benefit the winners. And the winners obviously are going to be people with cash. Cash is king. Is that the word that you've been using in the past 2-3 months, Lakhi? You're talking about people who've got cash, who can availably buy properties, and they don't need immediate bank finance. Is that right, Lakhi?
Yeah. So to keep it very simple, the normal term is a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. I'm saying to people, I've been saying for the last 10 years really, that a bird in the hand is worth 10 in the bush. So if you can get liquidity from your assets or your business or otherwise, then you're going to be the king of the hill.
Okay, so what you're saying is cash is king, but is that the same for the event production business, Linda? Is cash king there, or are you just having to put everything on pause? And what does putting everything on pause mean? Isn't that a cost? Are you losing staff? Are you having to say goodbye to the people you were employing in the event production industry, or have they been redeployed in your publishing side? Surely publishing is a total industry in itself. How do you manage?
I think, and then Lakhi, I'll be interested to, I'll answer that in a second. I'll be interested to hear why you think interest rates are going up, but we'll pick that up in a second. In terms of is cash king, yeah, Lakhi Singh's completely right. Doesn't matter which industry you're in, whichever industry you're in, cash has always been king. And most people that go insolvent, whether it's a corporate or individual, largely it's down to not managing their cash. So they might be profitable, but they just can't manage their cash. So I think
tell us a technique then, Linda. What is the good rule for any company, whether it's a SME or it's a corporate? What is the rule on cash reserves? What should they do?
Well, it varies per industry. It depends how quick the cash moves in and out. It depends on where the business is in terms of their maturity. So in other words, if they're well established, they've probably got better banking facilities. If they're well established, they've probably got better relationship with creditors and suppliers and people who buy off them. But I think the general rule is most people work on 9 to 12 months reserves. So in other words, if everything goes kaput, do they have enough cash in the bank or in reserves to be able to pay 12 months worth of outgoings? That's
okay. So you're talking about cash reserves. Is that the same as having cash that you've got sloshing around, as Lakhi says it? Obviously, a man who is rubbing shoulders with people with deep pockets. What's the terminology Lakhi uses? Sloshing around, that's it. So sloshing around seems to suggest slightly different to reserves, because reserves seems like it's there as a reserve for the business. It's actually part of the business. Sloshing around, as Lakhi says, is probably money that you've got that's spare. Is your reserve spare money, Linda?
Yeah, so I think the word you're probably looking for is liquidity. So how much
liquidity? Ooh, that sounds good. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So how much liquidity you've got in the business? How quick can you translate some of those less liquid assets into liquidity? And property traditionally is one of the slowest ones to turn into liquid because of the process of selling, the process of the paperwork, the process of due diligence. So on a balance sheet, property and fixed assets tend to be the least liquid. Cash is obviously the most liquid. And I think, and we've talked about this in the past, I think you should do regular stress testing. I think you should regularly test your numbers, and you should stay as close as you can to the market to be able to spot the trends, to be able to spot people who are in trouble, so that if they owe you money, you need to make sure you get your money in. And as a rule of thumb, there should be more money coming in than going out. That's a good way.
Okay, a very clever tip for everyone there. More money coming in, less going out. That's one rule for being cash fluent. Yes, sir, continue.
And I think secondly, continue to have a dialogue with your banks on a regular basis, whether you're doing well or not. Reason being, if you have a relationship with your bank and there is a devaluation in the amount of money coming in other words, less money coming in, you're able to then turn on the tap almost with your bank manager to say, can we have a short-term overdraft, or for long-term we need
excellent.
But
excellent.
That requires long-term and very
relationship.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think Lakhi Singh, do you have a relationship with your bank manager?
That's a good question.
The question I'm posing? Okay, not in a romantic way. I mean, what I'm saying is, Lakhi Singh, surely that itself is a bit of a contradiction, because the way that the banking community and the banking world is going, it's all now behind doors. You don't really know who your bank manager is anymore. You don't have a relationship with anybody. You have a relationship through the telephone or through the internet. And most applications, even for loans or overdrafts, even reviews, aren't actually done face to face anymore, or are they, Lakhi Singh? You're with a AAA rated bank.
Well, I would say that yeah, I think if you've got a relationship with the bank, it's more likely to be if you're a high turnover, mid-tier or top-tier type corporate. So if you're more of a startup or SME type organization, it's unlikely you're going to have a sort of relationship with the bank, because they're only looking at companies that they want to give a relationship manager to, if they're plus of at least 2 to 5 million turnover. So so I think if you're an SME, you haven't got you've got more of a very internet based or a telephone based type service. To get to the next level is more about who you know. So I've got access to corporate companies I work with who've got access of 100 million plus turnover. So they've got excellent corporate accounts. So I've been introducing some of my clients to getting assistance, but picking back off the relationship through introductions from corporate leaders. So I think a lot of it is about who you know in that industry, but it's not an easy thing. I think me sitting in Mayfair, I'm probably an oddity in the sense that I'm able to pull some strings. But on the whole, for the majority of UK businesses, it's very difficult to have any sort of relationship with your business manager.
Okay, Lakhi Singh. So this probably, before I continue, go back over to Ninda. A big shout out, obviously, to John Smith, Amar Ali, to Sonia, who's really enjoying the topic this morning. We've got Danny on YouTube. We've got a whole host of other people watching us on YouTube. I will give them all a shout out. And also, and I've got Mr. Noor as well, making moves and watching us now. Okay, Ninda, I think this goes to another part of the conversation. You're probably too big to fail. And you're probably more of a mover and the shaker in the entertainment industry and the music world. So you're able to pick the phone up to your bank manager and say, hey, John, can you make sure I've got that £6 million overdraft? Got to do some shopping this weekend. But the average business isn't going to be able to do that. I remember there's certain references that we had previously, like you think, where you had, and we can't mention them, like you said, ex-footballers or footballers who are on his books in terms of being consulted to for certain issues. And they were getting money thrown at them by the bank managers, and they weren't even asking for the overdrafts and the credit card facilities. So is this not really something that's going to happen at top tier level only? It's not SMEs that are going to have the pleasure of picking the phone up to their bank manager and asking him for a £6 million overdraft because they're going for a weekend shopping. Is that the way it works for the average business? Ninda,
Okay.
sir?
So a couple of things. We've seen over the last 4 or 5 years what we call challenger banks. So these are new banks that have come into the marketplace, which are driven largely online, places like Starling Bank. And they work and base themselves on a digital platform. So they work on a transactional relationship. In other words, debit in, credit out, and they don't have relationship banking. I think, so the question you're asking is, how do you get into a place that you're able to have a dialogue with a bank manager of some sort?
Yeah, so you're only doing 4.2 million turnover a year. Not a lot of money. How do you get the bank manager to look at you and talk to you?
That's fine. Look, one of the things I can say is, and we've called the magazine a business influencer, and what we say to people is, the more you network, the more you connect with people, the wider becomes your sphere of influence, and the more that people outside your organization start to see you. Now, I'm pretty convinced that when I was going through ropey times with my bank, not with my bank, with my business and people not paying on time, I was able to make a compelling case to my bank manager, who was then able to persuade the people in London in charge of credit control that we should let this happen and this happen. And I'm pretty convinced it was only because he knew that I was connected to a lot of people and that it was worthwhile supporting me. Because what banks do,
Connection.
What bank managers do is they really don't lend against the business. Credit control people do. They look at the balance sheet. But a bank manager really lends against the person. And if they feel they can trust the person, because remember, markets change, products change, but people don't, if that makes sense. So you could move into different markets, but it's the leadership team, the people running the business, that determine it. And they're
goes back. Excellent. The topic goes back to leadership, and we started with leadership, and we've come full round with leadership. We've got about 10 minutes left, Lakhi Singh. Tell me, is it your leadership that makes things happen in the square mile, or is it your dancing skills? Which one are they?
I think it's a combination of both, really. I think the dancing skills have been very useful because thanks to Ninda's music, I did a bit of dancing, hit 55,000 views. I think from that alone, I think anywhere I went in Mayfair, I think I went to about 10 events about just after that video, and I got recognized by 5 or 10 people and saying, "Oh, didn't we see you there?" So it's probably a good way of actually getting known. But the reality is you've also got to have a strong business model with what you're doing. So I'm blessed in the sense that I've got like a very comprehensive angle on the market where we're able to help anybody in property as a one-stop shop. So having that level of access to solutions means that if we're not making money from bridging, then we're making money from stopping repossession. If we're not making money from stopping repossession, we're making money from negative equity solutions. If we're not making money from that, it's from a sale or from sourcing assets for a buyer. So having let's just say quite a simple yet effective business model for creating business anytime somebody walks in through the door has meant that we're perfectly placed for a market that's declining.
So, question is, Lakhi Singh, we said auction. I mean, there's part of the topic of today's drive time was repossession and can you get repossessed properties from auction houses? Where do you see, keeping in line with the topic we've opened up, there's a shift in the way business is being done. Do you see auction houses staying as they are, a bit archaic, or do you see it all going online now? Quick yes or no on that.
I think because of COVID-19, it's going to make it quite difficult for people to be in live auction rooms anyway. So I think majority of auctions have already gone live on the internet already. So some of the ones which were live are offering part online auction type solutions now as well. So I think probably by the end of 2022, we'll probably find that the majority of auctions probably take place online, and then there'll probably be a combo.
Okay, let's suppose 22 is your cutoff date. Everything is going to change in the property world. What about the business world, Ninda sir? If everything is going to change in the property world, are we going to become a virtual country? Is everything going to become virtual? Are we all going to be doing everything online and like we're doing now, live streaming? By the way, we've got about a good 7-8 different people watching us on the YouTube live stream. So shout out to everyone on YouTube. Do try and join the group, and you can come in and put your comments forward. So, Ninda sir, if it's all going to change, you're saying events are going to come back in 2 years. Are they really? And what for? What will people be looking for? Are they going to be thirsty to meet each other? Is that what's going to happen?
Okay, so a couple of things. I think what has accelerated is the use of things like this, StreamYard. What's accelerated is the using a software called Teams and Zoom. So I think where perhaps in the past I would have gone to India to meet people, I think that will now happen through this. I think people in India will be happy to do this. Whereas I think if a year ago you'd said to somebody in India or Africa or whatever, can I have a Zoom meeting with you? I think they would have said, pardon, what's one of them and what are we doing? So I think now we've accelerated that. I still think, example, if you're doing a big acquisition, you still need to meet the people. Because you're still buying culture. I think people still buy from people. I think we're social animals. So I think to a certain extent, I accept technology will have accelerated the move towards this. I think social media is now important. Every individual is now their own media company because they've got a camera. They can all start documenting their journeys for the world to see. So I think it's opened up those opportunities. But I think business has always been about people. It will always be about people. And I think we're just going to find a hybrid system. In other words, we're going to use the best of online, but we're still going to do what we've traditionally always done, which is meet people to do the ultimate.
Okay, it's very interesting. So people have got their own music, and their own channels. Lakhi Singh, do you see yourself a bit as an Arnold Schwarzenegger? Down, get down, doing all that. Are you an Arnold Schwarzenegger in your own right with your camera, or are you more on the other side of the camera, sort of creating movies? Which way are you? Where do you see yourself? Last 5 minutes.
Yeah, I actually see myself probably being a lot more in the camera. I always wanted to be like some sort of a Bollywood actor or something. So this is my claim to fame, I think. And if I can do my dance moves like Hrithik Roshan, and I could sing as well as Lata Mangeshkar, I'll be happy.
Okay, so what do you do, Ninda, with the camera? Are you a bit of Arnold Schwarzenegger,
No,
or are you more of a back behind the camera producing movies?
Well,
Obviously, those clean type of movies we're talking about.
And just to give an example, this afternoon we're off to do some filming.
Excellent.
We've got a lot of filming gear, and that bit of filming. Now, here's the interesting bit: will be embedded into the digital format of the magazine. So you'll be able to go into the magazine. You'll be able to go into the magazine. You can either read the article, or you can click a button and watch the interview of the article, if that makes sense. So you can actually.
That makes sense, yeah.
Yeah. So
what do you say to web streaming and webinars and will that actually be part of events? I mean, will that become another part of events?
Well,
are you going to?
Well, you see, if you ask most people now, most people are fed up of webinars. Most people are fed up of sitting in front of a screen. They want to go and meet people and do whatever needs to be done. So I think that's what I'm saying. There'll be a hybrid. There'll be more of it than we've ever done in the past, but it'll never replace people to people. And I much prefer behind the scenes, personally. I prefer, for example, this afternoon, we're going to film a couple of entrepreneurs and to understand what they've done in the COVID situation. Then we'll embed that into the magazine. So I think people want to hear stories. They want to hear what other people are doing. They want to learn from other people's mistakes and other people's successes. And that's the world we live in. But
okay.
Yeah, I think everybody's now got an opportunity to have their own media company. Everybody.
Okay, so there's going to be there's lots of things happening. I think Neil Sohan talks about relationship managers and all that and says, well, normally they're just looking at your asset value. They're not looking at the equity. They're looking at your individual ability to manage your business and keep on top of your debt, which is another way of saying they invest, or bank managers look at you. They've looked at your ability to manage your business and see how well you are in maintaining your payments, etc., etc. Danny on YouTube says, yeah, the landscape is changing quite fast. You know, there's going to be lots of different things happening all at the same time, and it's a matter of keeping up with all these different individual changes. I think there's lots of interesting things. I do agree with the conversation that we've had today. We've got technology, the way money will transact, the way the relationships with people, so your clients, your customers, with the banks, the way money will actually flow. Will there be physical money anymore? Will it become electronic? Will it all become e-based? What is going to happen and how it's going to happen, I think, is going to take shape in the next 2, 3 years. And I think it's very interesting. And your point, Ninda, about interest rates, you never got to make that point. But I'm going to throw you in now. Last 20 seconds. Tell us about interest rates. Are they going up or are they not?
Okay, very quick question. You've been talking about auctions. I think what will happen with auctions, you will return back to a physical auction, but it will then be streamed live at the same time. So what you're now doing is you're now making your product available with no restriction. There's no geographical boundaries left at all. So I think the two will happen together. Interest rates, I don't think they're going up.
Excellent. Right. We have, coming straight from Mr. Ninder Singh, Johal, interest rates are going to stay where they are. How many years for, sir?
I think it all depends on how fast the recovery is the quicker we recover as an economy, the quicker interest rates will go up, because then that's when inflation starts to creep.
And if the interest rates go up at the Federal Reserve because you got Donald Trump coming back in and upping the economy and pretending like everything's back to normal, then what will you do, sir?
Well, yeah, I mean, we have to first get a recovery going. I mean, I'm quite happy to pay high interest rates, well, relatively speaking, if the economy's flying. And
excellent.
They're not going to move interest rates up if the economy is on the floor, because you
excellent.
have to
Lakhi Singh, sorry about that, and then I'm going to have to cut you short because we've got last few seconds. Lakhi Singh, is the horizon looking good for us, or are interest rates going to stay low? And is there a recovery on the horizon for you? Yes or no, sir? Last few words. Lakhi Singh, the property fixer from Mayfair.
I think my view is that the market's going to tighten considerably, whether it's interest rates. I think there's a high chance that they will, even though I understand where we're coming from. I want my viewers to realize that if they do, I don't really want them to be thinking positively about it, or rather that they batten down their hatches and actually learn how to fight the battle if they did go up. So I wouldn't really want them to take the risk. So I'm
from Lakhi Singh, the optimist. Thanks so much, Lakhi Singh. We will see Ninder Singh next week, Friday, every Friday, until we get a notice from him to say, I'm going flying off, got a lot of money in my pocket, going to do the weekend shopping. Can see you next week, boys. Lakhi Singh, property fixer, next week, 8 a.m., 9 a.m. every morning. We've got some guests on next week. We don't know who they are, but I think next week we've got a handful of lovely ladies every day, 5 of them. Take care, guys.